When you laugh at inappropriate times, do you actually know what your brain is trying to do? Yes, people think it's just disrespect, a lack of empathy, or a terrible social habit you need to break. But behind that simple, highly annoying, and often embarrassing reaction, there's something deeper that most people miss. It's actually one of the most fascinating, protective things your nervous system can do. And if you misunderstand it, try to force it to stop or ignore it, which most people do, you might burn out your nervous system and miss a critical warning sign. Let's start with what nervous laughter really means. Have you ever been in the middle of a deeply serious, tragic, or tense moment? Maybe you were at a funeral or in a tense meeting where your boss is yelling at you, or a friend is crying and sharing terrible news, and suddenly you feel the corners of your mouth twitching. A smile tries to break through. A small, breathy laugh escapes your lips. You quickly cover your mouth, bite the inside of your cheek until it hurts, and feel a sudden, heavy wave of guilt and shame. You look at the ground and ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Why am I finding this funny? Am I a bad person? Society has conditioned us to believe a very specific narrative about human emotion. We are told that sadness looks like tears, fear looks like screaming, and happiness looks like laughter. Because of this rigid rule, most people think laughing at a tragedy is a symptom of a failing, callous mind. They assume you are zoning out of reality, losing your edge of empathy, or that your brain is simply malfunctioning because you lack emotional depth. But here's what's actually happening. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It is violently shifting gears to save you from an emotional collapse. When you are overwhelmed by external emotional data, grief, intense pressure, fear, or sudden shock, your neurological baseline reaches a critical threshold. To prevent your cognitive centers from literally crashing under the weight of this dark information, your nervous system temporarily unplugs your standard emotional responses. It creates a physical paradox to generate a massive internal reboot. You aren't broken and you aren't cruel. Your body is literally fighting to keep your mind intact. Think about that for a second. Your brain is intentionally forcing a physical reaction of joy to clean up the chaos of terror on the inside. And by the way, if you ever find yourself laughing so hard during a crisis that you physically cannot breathe and feel entirely detached from your body, don't brush it off. We'll get to what that really means at the end, and it's something most people wish they had understood sooner. To truly understand this, we have to look at the hard data. A landmark 2015 study from Yale University completely changed how neuroscientists view contradictory human emotions. For decades, doctors and scientists assumed that laughing during a tragedy was purely a symptom of pathology, a defense mechanism gone wrong, or a sign of emotional detachment. But advanced behavioral studies reveal the exact opposite. The researchers discovered a neurological phenomenon called Dimorphous expressions. This happens when an emotion reaches such an extreme, unmanageable peak that the brain can no longer process it through normal channels. You have probably experienced a mild version of this before. Have you ever seen a puppy or a baby so incredibly cute that you felt a sudden aggressive urge to squeeze it or bite it? That is a dimorphous expression. Your brain is so overwhelmed by positive emotion that it uses a negative, aggressive physical response to balance the scale. Nervous laughter is the exact same mechanism, just in reverse. Neuroscientists who study human behavior call this a biological counterweight. What makes this even more powerful is what it means for you. When you laugh at a funeral or during a terrifying moment, you are subconsciously activating an invisible supercomputer. Your brain recognizes an emotional bottleneck. It realizes that if you feel one more drop of sadness or fear, your system will go into shock. So it sends an emergency signal to stop taking in new pain. Instead, it turns its massive processing power inward. It forces your facial muscles to contract into a smile and your diaphragm to spasm in laughter. Your brain is actually working harder and burning more metabolic energy when you are trying to suppress a nervous laugh than when you are crying normally. This reveals a nervous system that is highly attuned, refusing to let your daily experiences destroy your psychological baseline. But how exactly does a sudden, awkward laugh translate into a recovered, calmer mind? Here's where the neuroscience gets fascinating. When you let that nervous laugh escape, you are tapping into your brain's secret pharmacy. Intense emotional stress requires your brain to operate in a state of high alarm. This causes a steady, toxic buildup of cortisol and adrenaline. These are the neurochemicals responsible for stress, alertness, and survival. When those levels stay too high for too long, you feel mental fatigue. You feel paralyzed. Your brain literally fills up with metabolic waste products. By laughing, you are forcing your brain to release a massive flood of endorphins and dopamine. You are self-medicating without taking a single pill. It is a chemical survival tactic. This shift in hormones acts as a biological flush, clearing out the toxic buildup of stress hormones and resetting your nervous system. Your body is manufacturing the exact chemical environment you need to survive a modern, overwhelming emotional blow. And hey, if this makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more people who actually want to understand what their brain is secretly doing. To really grasp why your body does this, we have to look backward, hundreds of thousands of years backward. Evolutionary biologists have observed that the human body was never designed to process the relentless, complex social and emotional stimulation we face today. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors lived in a world of acute physical threats. Imagine you are an ancient human walking through the dense, dark jungle. Suddenly, a massive shadow moves in the bushes just a few feet away. Your heart races. Your cortisol spikes. You prepare to fight for your life or run. But then a small, harmless bird hops out of the bushes. The threat is gone. It was a false alarm. What does the ancient human do? They laugh. Evolutionary biologists have observed that laughter originated in early primates as a false alarm signal. It was a physical, vocal way to broadcast to the rest of the tribe that the danger had passed. It meant safety. It meant survival. But there is another, even deeper evolutionary layer. In the primate world, baring your teeth in a specific submissive smile or letting out a rhythmic panting sound is a way to signal submission to an alpha predator. It says, "I am small, I am harmless, please do not hurt me." When you stand in a modern office and your boss is screaming at you, your primal brain gets confused. To your ancient nervous system, your angry boss is an alpha predator about to attack. Here's what society gets wrong about this. Nervous laughter is an evolutionary ghost. It is your ancient survival instinct adapting to the modern world. Your brain is saying, we are under attack. We cannot fight. We cannot run. So we must signal submission and de-escalate the threat. It is a brilliant biological workaround to keep a body built for the wilderness safe inside a high-pressure modern environment. This explains exactly why this habit only triggers in very specific contexts. Have you ever noticed that you do not laugh nervously when you are alone and drop a glass on the floor, or when you're watching a sad movie by yourself in the dark? You only laugh inappropriately when you are trapped in the cognitive overload zone, when you are carrying the weight of a stressful social dynamic, when you are navigating a complex public tragedy, or right after a highly emotional shock where you are surrounded by other people. Your brain requires a physical release valve for social and emotional pressure. When the outside world demands that you process devastating news while maintaining a perfect social mask, your internal world must pull the plug. You aren't just being disrespectful. You are highly attuned to your environment, and your nervous system is actively compensating for the invisible weight of the tension you are carrying. You are balancing the scale. Think about that for a second. You only do this when your mind is full to the brim and trying to hold your world together. This brings us to the deepest truth about your subconscious habits. For your entire life, you have probably been told to snap out of it, to show some respect, stop smiling at the worst possible moments. But here's what's actually happening. Your inappropriate laughter is the ultimate proof that your brain refuses to let you break under pressure. When faced with overwhelming emotional or cognitive data, a lesser brain would simply delete it. It would forget the details, react impulsively, or completely disengage from reality and collapse into a state of shock, but not yours. Your brain found a loophole. It recruited your motor system and your vocal cords to force a physical state of joy, just so it could organize the inside world and keep you standing. This is what society gets completely wrong about you. This habit isn't a sign of a cold, unfeeling mind. It is the hallmark of a highly efficient, fiercely empathetic nervous system that feels things so deeply it has to trick itself into laughing just to survive the pain. Remember earlier when I said that laughing so hard during a crisis that you can't breathe is a warning sign? This This is what I was talking about. While a temporary nervous laugh is a superpower for cognitive recovery, there is a dark side. If you find that you are laughing hysterically during traumatic events, feeling completely detached from your body, or you have an irresistible urge to smile while feeling a tight, heavy pressure in your chest, you are no longer dealing with a simple brain reboot. Neuroscientists and psychologists recognize this as severe dissociation, combined with a chronic freeze response. Sometimes it borders on the pseudobulbar effect, a nervous system misfire, and it is a massive red flag from your body. When the behavior becomes extreme and involuntary, it is often a sign of severe emotional trauma, a dysfunction in your stress regulation pathways, or chronic nervous system burnout. Your brain is no longer just regulating, it is playing dead because it feels entirely unsafe. If your coping mechanism is causing you to lose touch with reality and destroying your social relationships, your brain is sounding an alarm. Listen to your body. You need to manually signal to your primal brain that the threat is over. When you catch yourself frozen in a dissociative, nervous laugh, practice the Decompression Protocol. First, you must break the physical loop. Do not try to force your face to stop smiling. That creates more tension. Instead, focus entirely on your hands. Clench your fists as tight as you can for 5 seconds. Then release them. This redirects the nervous system's kinetic energy away from your face and into your extremities. Second, engage in deep vagus nerve breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. This forces your brain out of the sympathetic fight or flight network and back into the parasympathetic rest state safely. Give your brain permission to feel the actual sadness or fear in a safe way. So, when you laugh at inappropriate times, do you actually know what your brain is trying to do? It isn't just a lack of empathy. It isn't a sign that you are too broken to feel sadness like a normal person. You think it is a psychological glitch, but actually it is your brain protecting you. That's evolutionary brilliance, keeping a primal survivor sane and organized in a modern, overwhelming world. And that simple habit was never a flaw. It's your mind working perfectly, and you should never feel guilty for it.